Perskaitys mūsų bičiulė iš Romerio universiteto Laima Vaigė.
Ačiū. Taip, tai aš skaitysiu pranešimą anglų kalba ir gal tik tai pasakysiu pavadinimą lietuviškai iš pradžių, kaip jisai išverstas Laisvė, būti queer, LGBTQ paveikslai vaikų literatūroje. So the first question we have to look at is why to study children's books. Children's literature has a special role to play in our ever more globalized world by giving children the opportunity to read and learn about various kinds of people, backgrounds and perspectives. Literature helps shape children's experiences, intellects, imaginations, feelings and thoughts. So what books they have access to and how these books are presented is an essential area of study. However, children's literature is only now starting to be researched in more depth, partly because previously children's literature was seemingly considered to be less serious, important or interesting than literature for adults. So why look at LGBTQ characters in children's books? Understanding whether and how lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and otherwise queer LGBTQ characters are included and portrayed in children's books reveals how society thinks about LGBTQ people. Also, why do we read? We might read books to see ourselves reflected, that is, mirror books. So LGBTQ young people or children with LGBTQ parents might want and need to see themselves reflected. But we also read books to see other selves, that is, window books. So young people ought to have a chance to meet LGBTQ people through literature. In an article on international literature and why children should read it, there is this quote: "To know the classic stories of a country creates a climate, an attitude for understanding the people for whom the literature is a heritage. When children know they are reading in translation the same stories that children in another country are reading, a sense of nearness grows and expands." This is a quote from Wheeler, using international literature to enhance the curriculum. The same can be said for literature that is diverse in other ways, such as in terms of gender and sexuality. When we are exposed to people through literature, we are no longer as other. There have been books for adults with LGBTQ characters much longer than books for children, which suggests that we are trying to protect children. But what is it that we are protecting them from exactly, and why? Talking about early books with LGBTQ characters, one of the first books for children to feature LGBTQ characters was a book from Danish writer Susan Bosch, written in 1981 in Danish and translated in 1983 into English as Jenny Lives with Eric and Martin. Bosch has written, "I wrote Jenny Lives with Eric and Martin back in 1981 because I became aware of the problems which some children face when meeting family groupings different from the ones they are familiar with. That is, mom and dad, possibly mom and dad divorced, maybe a step-parent. It is not possible to go through life without meeting people living in different ways, and they shouldn't come as a shock to anybody." Later that decade, the first picture books written in English were Heather Has Two Mommies by Leslie Newman, written in 1988, and Daddy's Roommate by Michael Wilhoit, 1991. Nancy Garden's Annie on My Mind from 1982 was among the first, A, for older readers, and B, to feature LGBTQ characters who were not parents. Note that mostly of these early books featured LGBTQ parents and seemingly had as their goal making LGBTQ parents seem acceptable and like any other parents. Note too that most of these books were picture books aimed at young children. Now talking about more recent books of LGBTQ characters. In more recent years, LGBTQ characters have increasingly been included in books for older children and young adults. The characters are now not just parents, but young people themselves. Although a surprising number of the books for young adults still feature LGBTQ parents, such as a book written in 2008, The Last Exit to Norwich, by Michael Herman, and Say the Word by Janine Garcia from 2009. And some have a combination of LGBTQ adults and LGBTQ young people, such as Naomi and Ellie's No Kiss List by Rachel Cohn and David Levitan from 2007. Of the 30 books the Chicago Public Library listed under the category of juvenile homosexuality fiction, nearly all were from the late 20th century. The oldest was from 1989, but the rest were from late 90s and the 2000s. In other words, the last 10-15 years have seen a major jump in such books. Authors writing in English about LGBTQ characters include Nancy Garden, Jacqueline Woodson, Julie Ann Peters, David LaRochelle, David Levitan, Ellen Whitlinger, Aidan Chambers, and Alex Sanchez. This is a quote from Townsend: "Premarital sex, drug abuse, homosexuality, running away from home are hardly remarkable anymore." So the first concern we should look at is who are the books for and why? Who is the audience of these books? Are the LGBTQ children and or children of LGBTQ parents? What about heterosexual children and or children of heterosexual parents? What is the goal of these books? Is it to show LGBTQ children reflections of themselves and children of LGBTQ parents reflections of their family lives, to increase acceptance of LGBTQ people among heterosexual readers? Some of these books have been censored or banned and even burned, especially in the US. A number have been called homosexual propaganda. King and King by Linda de Haan and Stern Nijland, translated from the Dutch, Koning and Koning, though I cannot find a translator's name anywhere, was the subject of a lawsuit in which parents in the US claimed it was inappropriate because it constituted sexual education. All this suggests that some people are concerned about the existence and goal of books with LGBTQ characters. For young adults, such books primarily feature gay males and or LGBTQ parents. Again, using Chicago Public Library, there were 4 times as many books under the category heading of gay teenage boys as gay teenage girls. Teenage lesbians had mostly the same books as gay teenage girls, with a couple of exceptions. According to the National Center for Education Statistics in the US and to other research, girls read much more than boys, and boys are more likely to consider themselves non-readers. So why are queer boys more often characters in literature for young adults than queer girls, if girls read more? And why do some such books have plots in which straight girls hope that gay males will turn straight and love them? For instance, Naomi and Alice No Kiss List by David Levitan and Rachel Cohn, and 12 Long Months by Brian Mallow. The audience of picture books often seems to be the children of LGBTQ parents, while the audience of books for young adults is likely to be females, based on statistics and the covers of the books, which seem designed to appeal to girls. But since females are not always the queer characters, then are girls reading these books to learn about the other? And if so many of the parents are LGBTQ in the books, does that mean more young people are looking to see their families reflected in literature? The second concern I want to look at is how are the LGBTQ characters portrayed? Picture books often show LGBTQ parents. Often the parents explain to the children that they love each other envy children as much as heterosexual parents do. Another common theme is having to explain and/or to defend LGBTQ relationships to other children or people at school or elsewhere. Books for older children often feature coming-out stories and stress based on sexuality. One exception is Boy Meets Boy by David Levitan from 2003. And Levitan has said, "I basically set out to write the book that I dreamed of getting as an editor. A book about gay teens that doesn't conform to the old norms about gay teens in literature. That is, it has to be about a gay uncle or a teen who gets beaten up for being gay, or about outcasts who come out and find they're still outcasts, only outcasts with their outcastedness in common." LGBTQ characters are often stereotyped as well. Why are there few stories that matter-of-factly accept non-heterosexualities, we should think? Why is the sexuality itself the main feature? And why do the characters tend to be stereotypical? Many of the picture books seem aimed at comforting children of LGBTQ parents and confirming their normality. Examples include Daddy's Roommate by Michael Wilholt. The story is a typical example because it includes the line, "Being gay is just one more kind of love, and love is the best kind of happiness." But gay is never defined, and the euphemism roommate is used. Other picture books show characters who don't conform to the norms, but are nevertheless okay, such as Oliver Button is a Sissy by Tommy De Paola from 1979, and The Sissy Duckling by Harvey Fierstein from 2005. One book that does not explicitly feature LGBTQ characters is It's Okay to Be Different by Todd Parr, which includes sentences such as "It's okay to be small, medium, large, extra large, and it's okay to need some help. And it's okay to have a different nose." In books for young adults and as a typical popular culture in general, gay males are portrayed as fashionable and funny and sometimes a bit camp, like Ellie in Naomi's and Ellie's No Kiss List by David Levitan and Rachel Cohn, who borrows Naomi's clothes. While the gay females tend to be either butch dykes, like softball playing Mike in Far From Xanadu by Julie Ann Peters, or more serious and even angry, like Ellie in Gravity by Lynn Lieberman. In other words, the characters can seem stereotyped. As for the storylines, they are mostly about sexuality and not about some other aspect of the characters' lives. Wide Awake by David Levitan is about politics, but the main issue there is whether it is possible to elect a gay Jewish president in the US. So the characters are shown as having problems because of their sexuality. And the third concern I want to look at is what happened to the BTQ in LGBTQ. Nearly all the queer parents are gay or lesbian, primarily lesbian. Why aren't there as many gay male parents? Nearly all the queer teenagers or other characters are gay or lesbian, primarily gay as discussed before. In other words, where are the bisexual, transgender and otherwise queer characters in children's books? Note this quote from a review, a quote by Pizzery. "The subject of lesbians and gays in children's literature is one that will not go away, no matter how many debates, controversies, or protests accompany the subject." What does this suggest about authors and publishers' acceptance of BTQ characters? I found one book with transgender young person, Luna, by Julie Ann Peters from 2004. This is about a transgender boy, Liam, who wants to transition and become known as Luna. The story is told from his younger sister's point of view, in first person. In a way, the story is mostly about how his identity affects her. Liam comes off as a self-involved and selfish. He routinely wakes her up in the middle of the night to talk, to show her his latest outfits, to use her mirror or room, and he also causes trouble for her at her babysitting job, so she loses the job. He doesn't do much for his sister, except towards the end when he gives her papers to cheat off, and when he moves and leaves her his car. So the reader doesn't get much sense of a transgender character except as someone who is clearly struggling, but makes everything about himself. I have also heard of, but not yet read, Parrotfish by Ellen Whitlinger from 2007, which is supposed to be about a transgender young adult as well, and 10,000 Dresses by Marcus Everett from 2008, which features a boy who likes to wear dresses. I found one main bisexual character in Boy Meets Boy by David Levitan, 2003. Kyle is portrayed as unhappy because of having a divided sexuality. I am so confused. Why? I still like girls. So? And I also like guys. I touch his knee. It doesn't sound like you are confused then. But I wanted to be one or the other. With you, I wanted just to like you. Then, after you, I wanted to just like the girls. But every time I'm with one, I think the other is possible. So you are bisexual. Kyle's face flushes. I hate that word, he tells me, slumping back in his chair. It makes it sound like I'm divided. In another book, The Year They Burned the Books, by Nancy Garden, 1999, Jamie and Terry call themselves maybes, because they are not certain about their sexuality yet. They talk about shades of meaning and probably maybes or maybe probablys, but they do not see bisexuality as a possibility. They must go one way or another. I have not found any books for children with, say, asexual, polyamorous, or masochistic characters. And the fourth concern, where is the diversity? While these books feature sexual diversity, other kinds of diversity in terms of race, religion, ability, class tend to be ignored. When there is a character who is a minority in some other way, this is not explored in any great detail. I found no books with a non-white or non-Christian main character whose race or religion was as important or more important than his or her sexuality. Is it possible to be LGBTQ and something else? Is this too much for children's literature to handle? I found only two non-white main characters. One is the half-black Staggerly, formerly known as Evangeline, in The House You Pass on the Way, by Jacqueline Woodson. There is also a Hispanic character in Rainbow High by Alex Sanchez. Plus, there is Swimming in the Monsoon Scene by Shyam Selvadurai, which takes place in Sri Lanka. I found three Jewish characters. One is Wide Awake by David Levitan, which is a sort of utopian novel set in the future, where everyone is mixed race and mixed religion, and Norman Glassman in Rainbow High by Alex Sanchez, and also the Orthodox characters in Gravity by Lene Lieberman. So the conclusion is that over the past 30 years, there has been something of an explosion of books with LGBTQ characters. So the history of queer characters is very much a contemporary situation, not a historical one. However, these books, A, mainly focus on sexuality, especially problems related to it, B, mainly feature only lesbian and gay characters, and C, mainly seem to be about and for LGBTQ children or young adults or children of LGBTQ parents, and D, mainly are about white, middle-class Christians. This suggests that monosexuals, whether heterosexual or homosexual, are more accepted than bisexuals or transgendered people. But it also suggests that non-heterosexuality is generally seen as a problem. That is, children of LGBTQ parents have to be shown how they are normal, and LGBTQ young adults have to come to terms with their sexuality. So the question for the future is how then can this be changed in future books for children? Thank you for your attention.
Ačiū, Laima.